Welcome everyone to the return of the Newscast. I'm James Lascola.
I am the one and only Weapon X.
Weapon X. Well, glad to have you here, man. Glad to run down some independent wrestling with you, my friend. How you doing this afternoon?
Doing well, man. Looks like we got a jam-packed lineup here of things to talk about in what was a very busy weekend in both commercial and independent wrestling, and a very busy week coming up as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all the dates coming in over the weekend, a lot of incredible shows, and not to mention what's coming up ahead of us. So shall we dive straight in?
Yeah, let's get right into the weekend that was.
Starting off with No Peace Underground. They held 2 shows over the weekend, and at that show, they crowned the first new champion of the weekend in a weekend filled with multiple new champions, starting with Pero dethroning 440's Eric Ryan in a dog collar match for that No Peace Underground championship. I mean, Pero, he's 16-0 in No Peace Underground. I don't know if you follow No Peace as much as I do, Weapon X, but I mean, he's defeated some serious names in No Peace.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of his work for a long time now. Some of the stuff he was doing in MLW and things like that. So he's definitely a very imposing character and figure. And I really love what he does with his representation as well, putting that out there and promoting it. And he's got all the tools. So it's good to see him claim that championship for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just running down a couple of the names that he's beaten, I mean, he's defeated the likes of Oren Veidt and Akira in the same match. He's defeated Brandon Kirk. He's defeated MV Young. And I mean, even a couple months back, he defeated FE on his own show, Fear the Gay Agenda, in a Last Daddy standing match. I mean, he is absolutely climbing the ranks, and now he sits atop Soundbar and the No Peace Faithful.
Yeah, and I think that brings a little bit more limelight to him. I think he's somebody who's still a little bit under the radar, and I think this kind of will definitely bring that spotlight and legitimate threat to some other promotions.
Oh, most definitely, man. And I mean, Warrior Wrestling too. I mean, they had a tremendous weekend of shows.
Yeah, Warrior Wrestling had a women's championship title change. Thunder Rosa defeated Kylie Ray. Warrior Wrestling is a promotion that I don't know where they have this secret stash of money, but they seem to book some of the craziest, what you have to believe is some of the most expensive cards in all of independent wrestling. I really love the stuff they do with the Stadium Series, and we got a title change here, defeating Kylie Ray with Thunder Rosa, who's someone who has had an incredible 2020 and 2021. She's on fire. I think she's, easily top 3, top 5 female independent wrestlers in the entire country.
Oh, Thunder Rosa is someone that's been on my radar for quite some time now. I mean, I'm glad that she's had this huge base to have with, I mean, the likes of NWA and AEW, but, having this title match with Kylie Ray, who's often seen as quite a huge fan favorite and one of the best women on the indies, that's another feather in her cap, if there was one. I mean, big congratulations to Thunder Rosa. But, I mean, moving into another woman on the indies absolutely killing it, we have the Russian Dynamite Masha Slamovich, adding on to such a great year with a Global Syndicate Wrestling Women's Championship to her name. I mean, she was stepped in as a last-minute replacement for Impact's Deonna Purrazzo, but she has captured the Global Syndicate Wrestling Women's Championship. And fair to note, she is currently a double champ, as she's also GSW champion. I mean, what are your thoughts on Masha Slamovich, Weapon X?
Oh, Masha is absolutely one of my favorite independent wrestlers on the planet. and it's hard to argue if anyone is having a better 2021 than Masha. She is absolutely on fire. She's taken several promotions by storm. She had an AEW appearance as well. And I think, only the woman that she replaced, Deonna Purrazzo, is having a better year than she is. And I think Masha is just absolutely dominating everywhere she goes. She's getting her own show coming soon. So there's a lot of stuff going on with her. She's on fire right now, and it's probably only a matter of time before she's no longer an independent wrestler.
And I mean, to me, the question in that matter, what needs to be seen is if she's going to be under contract here in America or back in Japan, because I mean, she was absolutely killing it in Japan through this pandemic.
Yeah, and I mean, anything you see from her on social media, it looks like when she gets the opportunity to go back to Japan, she's kind of chopping at the bit to get back there. So I would have to imagine that's going to come sooner than later as well. Moving in to another title change over the weekend, Graham Bell defeated Brett Eisen and Jaden Newman for the TWE Chattanooga Championship. Now, this was something that I didn't get a chance to see. I am familiar with the work of Brett Eisen and Jaden Newman, so I know that's tough competition to go through right there in order to get that championship. But I'm least familiar with Graham Bell out of the three. How did you see any of this going down?
And I mean, truth be told, this is one of the sort of sleepers over the weekend to me, because I mean, that's a lot of talent for one match. But I mean, having to take on both number one Jaden Newman and the human shotgun Brett Eisen, Graham Bell had a big mountain to climb. And I mean, this is the same guy who during the Scenic City Invitational went over 15 minutes with Red Death Daniel Garcia. So truly, he just continues to show his grit and determination as a professional wrestler, which just all the power to him for taking on these two and winning the TWE Chattanooga Championship. TWE Chattanooga being a promotion I'm a little newer to, but I'm truly enjoying what they're throwing down. I don't know if you've had the chance to check out their library on IWTV yet.
I've seen a little bit of their stuff. I know Southern Wrestling is kind of making a little bit of a come up, if you could say. So I've been seeing a lot of stuff out of that region, and the place is a little bit southern from there. So it's good to see it. It's good to see that other areas of the world open up to show us more independent wrestling from their area, so we can kind of get familiar with these new guys, these Graham Bells, these Jaden Newmans. These people are out there. So the more opportunity and the more exposure we get to these guys, guess what? That opens up opportunities for them to come to the more higher profile places, the bigger promotions, the bigger areas. So it's only a win-win for everybody involved.
Most definitely. I mean, these are three names out of that southern area that can be taken up to higher and higher levels in the coming years, and I'm hoping that happens. But we have one last title change rather, to run down before we move on. But we have Mike Outlaw defeating Jake something for Glory Pro's Crown of Glory. I didn't get to see this one go down yet, but I mean, Mike Outlaw and Jake something are two names that I'm fairly familiar with, two incredible performers in what must have been one hell of a match.
Yeah, and if I believe some of the things that I saw on Twitter, it was an incredible match. I know they had a lot of hoops to jump through for this show to go down. It went down. It sounds like it was a really good success. Jake something is in my top of favorite independent wrestlers. The guy's been tremendous. He's been consistent for a really long time. Still, what I kind of consider under the radar in a way, and he always delivers. But I just feel like he still hasn't had that one breakout performance that kind of brings him to the forefront of everyone's mind. But relinquishing the title to Mike Outlaw, obviously that's no slide to him. That's a hell of a competitor there as well.
Hell, and I mean, we might be looking at an upcoming kind of performance. I mean, because right now he's in the chase to get that Crown of Glory back, so he's going to be looking to pull out all the stops, I'm very sure, to get that belt back from Mike Outlaw.
Yeah, I don't think we've probably seen the last of these two, that's for sure. So moving on from the weekend that was, we're going to move into the top stories that have dominated the headlines of independent wrestling this week. And we have to start off with the groundbreaking news, you could say, being the fact that Minoru Suzuki is coming to the United States September through October. Some of the dates have already been announced. Some of the opponents have already been announced. Not everything, so there's still some surprises that are going to come our way. But we did get a GCW announcement just before we came on air today on 9/24. Suzuki will be facing Homicide. That's huge. That's big time. It only makes you wonder what else they could potentially have planned for him on the GCW dates of 9/17, 10/10, and 10/23.
Oh, and I mean, Homicide versus Minoru Suzuki is a match I categorize under things I didn't expect, but now really, really want, because you don't just come up with Homicide versus Suzuki out of midair like that. This is like going down to the wildest sort of Fire Pro EWR levels of fantasy booking you can get just to have Homicide take on Suzuki.
Yeah, listen, we've seen Suzuki come here several times, and he doesn't come here to bullshit around. He comes here to face some of the best and some of the most ruthless wrestlers on the independent scene. And this lineup is as good as it gets. For Premier Wrestling Experience on October 2nd, he's going against the returning to independent wrestling Anthony Henry.
Henry versus Suzuki is going to be a tremendous fight, I'm sure, because, I mean, looking at it just on the face, you got Anthony Henry, who's just coming off of his run over in the WWE, and now he's waited out the no-compete, and he's ready to go in the ring, and now he's going to get to go with one of the best in Japanese wrestling, and Minoru Suzuki, and it's going to be one to watch for sure. But personally, I got to say, I'm going to be partial here being from the Northeast. I'm a little more excited for West Coast Pro on October 8th, taking on Red Death Daniel Garcia, who's had one of the big years in independent professional wrestling.
Yeah, listen, man, there's nobody having a better year than Daniel Garcia in 2021. I don't think it's even comparable. He's absolutely on fire. The stuff he's doing with AEW, and then he's traveling anywhere and everywhere, taking on the best wrestlers on the planet. All his matches are against headline type guys, main event type guys. He's everywhere. He's doing everything, and there's just, in my opinion, nobody come close to what he's doing so far this year.
I mean, looking just at the accolades, he's current reigning defending champion in 3 separate companies. He's working with AEW. He was a finalist in Scenic City Invitational this year. He's hitting all these mountaintops, and it's only August going into September. And now he gets to take on one of Japanese wrestling's best in Minoru Suzuki in a year where it feels like now anything is possible for Daniel Garcia. He could and anywhere take on anybody and hold any title. But man, Minoru Suzuki is not the only Japanese talent that'll be here in the US around this time, as Atsushi Onita is coming to the US. After so long taunting and calling out Matt Tremont to have that death match, that one last death match, that once-in-a-lifetime match, Tremont has accepted Onita's challenge for Halloween, which is going to be a part of a huge weekend of shows featuring H2O and Sean Henderson's Hustle Cup on the 29th of October, Tremont's Deathmatch Tournament the 30th, and culminating in FMWE and H2O's Destiny on Halloween night. Now, I don't know about you, but this match is going to be an absolute treat for me, because they're teasing this up to be an exploding no-rope barbed wire death match.
Yeah, I'm excited about the prospect of this match. Deathmatch wrestling has kind of been something that I've kind of eased my way into. It wasn't necessarily something that I've always been into. So knowing these guys' history and their body of work is something that's a little bit outside of my knowledge. I understand the importance of such an event. And I do like that, sometimes when these social media, storms, so to speak, kind of rile themselves up and then the matches actually come to fruition. It's an amazing thing to see sometimes. There's just, casual trash talking over social media. And then all of a sudden people are winding up in their dream matches or coming out of retirement for matches that they've always wanted to have a part of. And, promotions, social media buzz, the fans kind of make these things happen on the independent circuit. It's amazing to see when it comes together. And it's coming together on a weekend that's absolutely jam-packed. There's so much right there in between those 3-4 shows that you mentioned. It's going to be a crazy time to be in New Jersey that weekend.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, we all know that, in recent history, this match was supposed to be the once-in-a-lifetime that went down in CZW. Of course, we all know that changed into a multi-man. The same thing happened in Japan. But now to get the honest one-on-one between Onita and Tremont is going to be huge, and I think I might have to trek it down to New Jersey for that weekend as a huge deathmatch fan myself.
Yeah, if you're in the area, it's definitely one that you got to check out. So we covered 2 guys who are coming to the United States to wrestle. However, there's one guy who's already in the United States who's going to begin wrestling on the independent circuit, and that's the artist formerly known as Buddy Murphy, now going as Buddy Matthews. He will be making his Warrior Wrestling debut at Sweet 16 on October 16th. I don't know that a competitor has been announced for him yet, but listen, man, when this guy hits independent wrestling coming off that NXT and WWE run that he just had, holy smokes, there are some matchups out there. If you could just run them down, pick your favorite guys, there's going to be some crazy matchups out here for Buddy. And it's going to be amazing to see because I think the chains are going to be off. The handcuffs are going to be off. And I look for this dude to get wild.
Absolutely. Buddy Murphy has been one of those wrestlers where it's like he's on roster and he's having tremendous matches, but sometimes he might go overlooked to the people on the upper card, but still he is not going to be one to be missed on the Warrior Wrestling show coming up. And believe it or not, this is actually his first he's actually the first competitor announced for Warrior Wrestling Sweet 16 on October 16th, though there is going to be an appearance by Bret the Hitman Hart at the show.
Yeah, once again, Warrior Wrestling over-delivering, you might even say. They just continue to bring in this crazy amount of talent and just load up the card, and they're can't miss shows.
And I mean, as we sort of shift over to a little bit on the downside, we did see the cancellation this past weekend of Beyond Wrestling's American Rana and WWR Plus. Well, any cancellation is a sad news. This one was probably for the best, as this was due to the conditions of Hurricane Henry. You can never predict how Mother Nature is going to react. You can see it'll be sunny one day, but then all of a sudden, as it gets closer, the rain comes down. As someone who is going to be in attendance that show, obviously sad that it got canceled. However, it was the smart idea to cancel it too.
Yeah, and I know this had to be heartbreaking for everybody involved with Beyond Wrestling behind the scenes. Obviously, the wrestlers, I'm sure they were upset as well, but I know that they had some really huge surprises planned. I know that they had some really cool stuff lined up for both of these shows. It was going to be a tremendous weekend, and I really applaud Drew because of the dedication and the effort that he's putting into women's wrestling with WWR Plus. Those shows have been so amazing, bringing in the best of the best in women's wrestling. Plus, They do feature some other talent as well, but it's primarily female focused. It's been amazing. I love everything that they've done so far, and obviously Beyond Wrestling, is just a staple. It's the best independent wrestling promotion, in my opinion, in the United States. It's just incredible. Every show they do is always good. It's always well thought out, planned really well. So I know this had to be heartbreaking for them. They had so many people coming and going this weekend between different shows, flights, rental cars, so on and so forth, people bouncing all over the place, that it ultimately was the right decision, because who knows who would have been able to get there and who would have not. Not only could fans even make it, due to the weather, but people that were traveling from across the country from previous bookings, just who knows? They might have ended up having to shift the card around 4 or 5 times, and you wouldn't have got what they had planned to deliver anyway. So probably the best scenario. Hopefully it gets rescheduled. When it gets rescheduled, hopefully everyone that was planned can make it, and they can go through with some of the announcements and things that they had planned. And I really look forward to it.
And absolutely. And I mean, for the fans, if you can do it, check out Beyond on their YouTube, check them out on IWTV, go check out Shop IWTV, maybe pick up a shirt, definitely pick up a ticket to Borscht at the Beach next month, September 19th. It's going to be on a beautiful beach. It's going to be 2 shows on 1 ticket, and it's going to be a hell of a time.
And you got Masha Slamovich on the poster, so what else do you need? That's reason enough, So that pretty much covers the top announcements for the week. So now we kind of want to transition into the upcoming schedule and the things that are on the docket for this weekend coming up. And I'll let you go ahead and knock this first one right out of the park.
And Sean Henderson, who folks will know as Tremont's first student, is putting on a great show this coming Friday, August 27th, live on IWTV. It is going to be After Laughter, and it's going to feature Ty Hill taking on Marcus Mathers, who's been an absolute standout of the H2O school this year. I mean, you're also going to see Austin Luke taking on Jordan Oliver, someone that's had another person that's had a tremendous year this year, and Gabriel Sky taking on Reed Walker, and a lot more action to go down in Williamstown, New Jersey that night on August 27th, live on IWTV.
Listen, there's 2 people on this card. If you watch it for them alone, watch it for them. And that's Christian Robinson, who I think is an absolute star in the making. I talked about him. He was here last month for Unsanctioned Pro here in Columbus. Had an absolute banger. This dude is on his way up. You're going to be hearing about him a lot in the future. Guy's crazy talented. And another person who I'm really high on that's on this card, she's involved in a 4-way match with Louis Ramos, Drew Blood, and Declan Grant, is Kennedy Copeland. I think she's absolutely phenomenal. She's one of the top women, or up and coming women, on the deathmatch scene, and I really like a lot of the stuff that she's been doing, so I'm looking forward to seeing her as well.
I gotta agree with you there. Christian has been an absolute phenomenal athlete to watch on these Unsanctioned Pro shows I've gotten to watch. And I mean, Kennedy Copeland, I'm gonna say last year to this year, last year I saw her in Limitless Wrestling's Pandemic at the Dojo series, and now this year she's taken on the likes of G-Raver, on the likes of Mickey Knuckles, and loads of other deathmatch talent, and really showing out for the women of deathmatch wrestling, and I absolutely respect the hell out of her.
Yeah, it should be a really good show on Friday. Also on Friday, we have AIW, one of my home promotions, has A Touch of Evil featuring Danhausen. That will be on Friday night as well. Now, they haven't really announced a whole lot from that show. There are a couple things out there, but I think most of it is kind of show up to the door and we'll show you what we got.
I mean, as Jay Rose would tell you, you buy the ticket and you take the ride. But I got to say, personally, I mean, I don't know if this is much of a cop-out answer, but I mean, Danhausen taking on Derek Dillinger with Ziggy Haim is going to be a highlight for me because, I mean, Danhausen aside, I really love what Derek Dillinger and Ziggy Haim have been doing through the year. They're just absolutely one of my favorite parts of these AIW shows that I've gotten to watch.
Yeah, and this is actually a matchup of old production members. So Danhausen actually used to be in a faction with Derek when they were a faction of the production, and it's going to be interesting to see how those two come back together and now have to be competitors after being friends and faction members for so long. Moving into Saturday, AIW is running a second show, which is their annual Wrestle Rager. This is Wrestle Rager 5, Fight to Survive. Now, Wrestle Rager, they have announced even less matches than they have for Touch of Evil. So not a whole lot out there in terms of match announcements. They have tweeted out a couple graphics, but not a lot of stuff. Wrestle Rager, I believe, is traditionally more of a surprise outdoor kind of a drinking celebration, at least in years past. Last year we attended it. It was a little crazy, but this year I'm sure they've got several things up their sleeve. AIW is usually a pretty consistent promotion, so I would expect there to be some chaos on Saturday as well.
I mean, just scrolling down at some of these graphics, I mean, I see Mance Warner and we're taking on Levi Everett, and I already see a match I'm going to be glued to. I love the Second Gear crew, but I love it even more when they decide to fight each other in the ring because, it's going to be a lot of a beating between the two of them, but at the same time, it's like two brothers fighting each other where it's all in good fun.
Yeah, and listen, both those guys are super over at AIW, so I would expect a lot of both these guys' chants, maybe even some holy shit thrown in there as well, because those two guys can also get pretty reckless. So if they take the brakes off, it's going to be pretty crazy. Just before we came on for recording, AIW made another announcement. They are bringing Matt Cardona back Saturday, October 2nd. He was involved in a couple angles not too long ago in his first AIW appearance with the Absolute Intense champion, Joshua Bishop. So I would have to imagine, this hasn't been announced yet, but Saturday, October 2nd at the Tadmor Shrine, there's probably going to be some kind of interaction between Matt Cardona and Joshua Bishop.
And, I got to say, Matt Cardona, while he's had a pretty solid year through the indies, I mean, I don't know why you'd want to go barking at Josh Bishop, because that is a big, bad dude. I mean, he holds the Absolute and Intense titles for a reason, because he's just that damn good in AIW.
Yeah, and he's been popping up a couple other places as well. I know you've seen him out there in Jersey, and the guy is an intense icon, as he likes to call himself. So, if I was Matt Cardona, I'd be a little weary about showing up at the Tadmor Shrine. But we know from the match graphic that he's going to be there, and when these two come across each other, it could get dangerous.
Speaking of places where danger is most definitely to be found, H2O is coming live on IWTV this Saturday, the 28th, with Street Justice. Now, there's been a lot boiling over at H2O over the past year, with 440 having a very hostile takeover of the company, taking up all the belts. But to everybody's surprise, the Saviors are looking to be white trash forever. WTF coming back to take on Ricky Shane Page, the Bev Bobby Beverly, and Eric Ryan in a no rules 6-man fight in the main event. I mean, I just know from looking at the graphic that match is going to get intense and wild.
Yeah, you said it yourself in the beginning. A place where danger is frequently found. That's going to be this place on Saturday night. I mean, looking at the poster that they put out, which kudos to whoever put this together. The green that fades into blue, kind of old school vibe poster that they put together is amazing. Fantastic work by those guys and whoever their graphic guy is. There's so much on this card to look forward to. It's going to be just absolutely chaotic. And we have Eddie. We have found Eddie Only. He's back amongst the living, and he's taking on Kennedy Copeland, who we already mentioned earlier in the show. That can get crazy. Gregory Iron is in action. Atticus is in action. There's so much going on this card that it's like if you mention one match being more predominant than another, you're crazy, because each match just seems like it keeps getting better, and I just don't know. I don't know what to even say is the best match on this card. It's fully loaded.
I'm going to say one match certainly not to sleep on is going to be the Danny Havoc hardcore title match between champion Atticus Cogar and, again, H2O standout Marcus Mathers. Mathers has had one hell of a year for being as young as he is. He has that briefcase he won at IWTV 100 for a future independent world championship shot. So, I mean, the sky's the limit for this kid, and another thing he could be picking up along the way this weekend is that Danny Havoc hardcore championship.
Yeah, we're gonna be seeing a lot out of him for years to come, and it's only going to continue to get better and better. Absolutely. Speaking of getting better and better, another promotion that I have just been absolutely in love with throughout 2020 and into 2021 is Limitless Wrestling. They're having their Vacation Land Cup this weekend. It's not going to be live streamed, but it is being recorded to broadcast on IWTV at a later time. But this card and this entire promotion has just been absolutely on fire lately. They've been putting on great shows. They have amazing production value. That's something that I always talk about on Twitter anytime I talk about Limitless Wrestling. Is it's like you're almost watching a movie. Whatever cameras they use, whatever camera guys they use, it's absolutely incredible. It's head and shoulders above anything else that anyone's doing, and I'm not shitting on anyone else, but whatever they do, the vision behind what they have in mind is just absolutely fantastic. They're bringing back Alternative AG, who was a long time standout at Limitless, former champion. He's going against Kevin Blackwood. That's going to be amazing. They also have the Scrunchy Fan going against JT Dunn. So I'm really excited to see how that turns out. And one of my favorite wrestlers that I discovered in 2020, 2021, Alec Price is on the card as well. It's just, I mean, it's so loaded, and that's not even mentioning the main event between Daniel Garcia and JD Drake.
Oh, man. I mean, that JD Garcia match, it's going to be a rematch from a show earlier this year, but still it's going to be big nevertheless. But I don't know if you've seen the stakes that just got added onto it as of today, as of recording. If Drake can't win, this is his final shot at Garcia. If he loses, he can no longer get another shot as long as Garcia's champ. On the flip side, though, Garcia has agreed that Kevin Blackwood is going to be banned from ringside. So even playing field, but JD Drake has a lot to fight for on his end.
Yeah, absolutely, because we know how much that means to him. We know how much Limitless means to him, and becoming champion there has got to be something that he's had his sights set on, with Daniel Garcia. But there's something that I've been seeing kind of brewing at Limitless, and it's kind of outside of this match. If Daniel Garcia prevails, I think the second hottest person in that promotion in the past year has been Kevin Blackwood, and I think it's only a matter of time before that relationship comes to head, because there's only one championship.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, friendship is one thing to treasure. However, in the wrestling business, if you're not moving upward and looking at world championships, I mean, what are you doing? You got to think, at least there's some segment in the back of Kevin Blackwood's head that might be thinking, I'm gonna get my shot, but at what cost with him and Daniel Garcia?
Yeah, the time's gonna have to come, and it's gonna be dangerous when it does.
Well, Weapon X, let's get bold here for a little bit. Why don't we go back and forth? I give my pick for who's winning the whole Vacation Lane Cup. You give me yours and why.
For me, it's probably got to be AG coming back. I mean, how do you not put that guy all the way through, if not at least in the finals? I mean, a longtime staple coming back off a hot NXT 205, WWE run. Some of the things he was doing there was really good. So he's going to be coming back. He's going to be coming back hungry. As much as Kevin Blackwood has been on fire, and I think he's tremendous, drawing that in a first round matchup is just bad news, I think, for Kevin Blackwood. And I think AG probably has to go all the way.
I've been on the same mindset, but honestly, I'm going to be honest. I love an underdog story. And to me, one of the big underdogs in this tournament, I mean, no disrespect to Love Doug, but it's got to be his opponent, Alec Price, who honestly has been having some of the most incredible matches of this year in Limitless. I mean, he's taken on Kevin Koo, he's taken on Ken Broadway, he's taken on so many great talents, and yet his only shot at that world title and at Daniel Garcia was in a triple threat. I think this is the Prize City OG's time, and that he's going to finally get that one-on-one with Garcia.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned everything he's been doing in Limitless, but he's been on fire throughout the entire Northeast. So it's not unreasonable to think that he can go all the way. If it's him and AG in the finals, that would be one hell of a matchup. I think there's one guy that we're kind of, if I had to go with a dark horse, maybe kind of off the radar type pick, I'll be interested to see who can slow down Ace Romero. He's kind of been out of action. We haven't seen a lot from him, but what he's been saying on social media is that he's hungry to get back in the ring and to start tearing some people up. He draws a very tough opening round matchup against Rip Bison, but Ace Romero is a longtime Limitless competitor, and I think he's gonna really want to show people that he's still around.
And AC Baby versus Ripper is gonna be like a Mack truck colliding with another Mack truck, where you don't know how brutal the carnage is gonna be, but you just know that it's about to go down, and it's not going to be pretty. And this has been the return edition of the Newscast. Weapon X, thank you so much for joining me this week to discuss all the latest indie news, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the invitation from everyone involved in putting this product together to come on and do this and talk a little bit about the week that was in independent wrestling, the news of things to come, as well as the weekend ahead that we have to look forward to. It's going to be crazy. We're getting back into the swing of these fully loaded weekends where it's Friday through Sunday, just bang, bang, bang. There's almost too much to consume. Last weekend, there was so much. I mean, we mentioned things on here that we didn't even get a chance to check out because there's just, I'm usually triple monitored up and I can't even watch it all. There's just so much stuff going on, and you're going to miss a couple things from time to time, but we're going to be here to bring you the news, and we're going to be here to bring you all the things that are happening. So make sure you stay tuned to this podcast and all of our social media postings so that you are current on all the independent wrestling events.
And speaking of social media, man, where can we find you?
I'm at the Weapon X, which is W34PONX.
And you can follow me on Twitter at RockerJ881. And you can keep up with all the latest indie news at PW Ponderings on Twitter. Thank you all so much for listening to the return edition of the Newscast, and we will see you all on the next one.